ago, our region took a horrible 1-2 punch, first from the floods and then from the cyclone. Many Aucklanders are still living with the devastation. The recovery is underway, and thanks to Matt and his team, but there are many people still in tough situations. There's a lot more work to do to build a stronger, more resilient Auckland. And thank you to members of the public who are online. There's one or two here today, who've shared their stories. It's been very hard for you, and we've listened, in particular the 3 groups that attended our last GV from the affected areas presented very well, and we listened carefully to what they say. This is an extraordinary meeting today where we have to make some big decisions. First, we need to decide whether to accept the Crown's cost-sharing proposal and carry out the proposed voluntary buyouts of Category 3 properties. Secondly, if we do accept, we need to make some decisions about how we carry those category buyout decisions. The big decisions, and I know we feel the weight of them. I know there are many Aucklanders in a tough situation. Taking up the government's proposal will help them get out of that situation and move on with their lives. And we understand that they want to get on with this as soon as possible, so we really have to be decisive. We also need to get on with the community and local interventions that will build a more resilient region, and it's clear that the government are willing to contribute to making space for waters. However, there's no shying away from it. This will come at a really big cost to Auckland ratepayers, who will still be paying off the debt associated with this for many years. I feel the weight of that responsibility, as we all should. Also mindful about the sustainability of this. As a council, we do not and cannot insure private properties against the hazards of coastal erosion and climate change. That's not what we pay our rates for. So this meeting will be in 2 parts. First, we're going to hear what the public and local boards had to say about funding Auckland's storm recovery and resilience. Most of you in workshops will have had this background, but this is a public meeting, and once we've heard that feedback, we'll move into a confidential discussion to make our decisions. Auckland is in a difficult position. Compared to other regions, we have a lot more properties in Category 3. They're worth a lot more, and probably most importantly, there is a lot more uncertainty about those numbers. The denser urban environment makes it harder to get absolute clarity on every single thing until we're well into this. Under the Crown proposal, we have a proposed funding envelope of $774 million for property buyouts, 50-50. We need to agree policy settings which will do the job and are fair to both the affected owners and to all those Aucklanders not affected but who will be in some way contributing. Acting responsibly, we also need a reasonable degree of confidence that we aren't going to run out of money partway through this process. We've heard some strong messages from affected owners, and I have to congratulate them on how sensibly, thoughtfully they presented those messages, as you all who were present at that day when the 3 groups presented recognised. We heard that we need to do everything we can to speed up the categorisation and buyout process. We've already been through enough, and we should be creating a process that allows for some quick wins in the simpler cases. And those that spoke to us said, get on with the ones that you can do quickly. We've also heard about the role of insurance companies. There's been a call for stronger advocacy to insurance companies and to make sure they are paying their fair share given the premiums they've collected over the years from Aucklanders. And you will recall within a day or two of the first flood, I was in there with the Insurance Council and advocating that they do exactly that. There is also a need to address the Category 2P properties, those which might need support to fix out their property to avoid hazards. Throughout this process, we've made clear that the government needs to come up with a national scheme, so we're not just doing things piece by piece with future events, which will no doubt arrive. So that's it. Matt and your team, it's over to you to present, particularly how the feedback went. Thank you.
Your Worship, Councillors, thank you. I'm going to quickly now hand over to Ben Parsons. Ben is a senior member of the Recovery Communications team, and he's led our input and work on both the public consultation and the local board feedback, which you've talked about, and both of those exercises, as you've said, Auckland's funding of recovery and resilience were the questions that were asked. Ben.
Kia ora koutou, Your Worship, councillors. Yes, I will just provide a reasonably high-level overview of the consultation feedback. The full report is attached with the agenda documents, but happy to give a summary and then happy to provide questions as we go. Oh yeah, I've got the clicker. Thank you. So, brief context to this. Obviously, as we know, the recovery to this is going to come with a significant investment. Funding package has been negotiated with the Crown, and this was an opportunity for Aucklanders to provide their feedback on whether they support Council accepting the package and the details around how the purchase of Category 3 properties should be managed. As Your Worship said, there is a strong sense of urgency here and the need to get on and make a decision so that people can get back on with their lives. And as a result of that, this was a fairly abbreviated consultation exercise. We were out for feedback for 2 weeks, whereas normally it's a little longer, so that we could be here today to get on and make decisions. So overview, we were asking for feedback throughout the mid to late September. There was a communications campaign which focused on increasing awareness and pushing people to those feedback channels. Mostly the feedback was online through the AK Have Your Say website, including an online webinar. There was also information throughout libraries and service centres and 2 drop-in sessions. As a result of that, we got just shy of 2,500 submissions, 2,461, including 20 from organisations. This slide here shows the distribution of those submissions by local board area, and the red dots indicate local boards that have a Recovery Office designated priority community. So 2 things. One is that the number of submissions varied quite widely across local boards, but as a general rule, we heard increasingly from slightly more people in those affected communities, Waitakere and Rodney as a case in point. Overall, and this is the headline statistic to take from this feedback, there was strong support for accepting the proposed funding package. 83% of individuals, vast majority of organisations supported it. There was a majority support across individuals from all local boards and across all demographic groups. So strong support for accepting the package. People provided open-ended feedback, and we have analysed those and processed those into themes, some of which you see on the screen and more in the report. I'll go through these reasonably quickly. In terms of those who support accepting the funding package, that was largely driven by support for the buyout aspect, although with some caveats and conditions around how that worked, particularly in terms of the role of insurance, whether those without insurance or who are underinsured should receive equal treatment or not. There were a range of comments around that. Also comments around whether there should be some kind of cap or exclusion. Overall, there was strong desire for fairness, equity and speed so that people can get back and continue their lives. In terms of the infrastructure components, general support for investment to fix damaged transport and water infrastructure and to make those more resilient in the future. Also comments around the need for planning so that we can avoid building houses in affected area or risk areas. This shows the themes among those who do not support accepting the package, and that was largely driven by an opposition to the property buyout component. These people saying there should be some property owner responsibility, the role of insurance, and comments around government's responsibility. There were some concerns around the impact that this would have on rates. And again, even among this group who did not support accepting the package overall, there was some support for the infrastructure component and recognition of the need to fix our infrastructure in this space. When it came to the details around the property buyout methodology, there was a really wide range of views and little consensus on the best approach. Again, there were comments around the role of insurance and how they would be taken into account. Often, but not always, that uninsured people should bear some consequences, but others suggested that everyone should receive equal outcomes. again, a mixed view on the valuation method. Some suggested that CV or capital value-based payments were the simplest, most transparent, and importantly fastest method to give people certainty. Others saying that market-based valuations actually provided a better indication of a property's true value. Others indicated a hybrid where you could potentially get the CV payout quickly and then negotiate subsequently to receive a further payment potentially. In terms of eligibility, again, a mix of views, whether to include all residential properties, primary properties only, what about category 2 properties? So generally there was a need, or an expressed need, to move quickly, provide certainty and fairness and equity. Up on the screen here is the number of submitters who support Auckland Council advocating to central government to provide a national scheme. Again, strong support, 84% of individuals, 15 out of 18 of those organisations who commented. This was largely driven by a sense that the government should be contributing in some way for these kind of events. Finally, 10% of those who submitted felt that they themselves might be eligible for a Category 3 buyout under this proposal. Among those who did feel that that was the case, even stronger support for accepting the funding package. 95% of those who thought they would be eligible were in favour of accepting the package. And comments from these people were largely around, well, all the same things that we've heard to date, but also the importance of fairness, equity and speed. Kia ora, thank you. Ngā mihi, that was a fairly whistle-stop tour through what was a lot of detailed commentary, so happy to take questions if there are any.
Thank you for that. It was good to see such positive support from the public for something which is quite difficult for everybody. I don't have any questions at this stage, mainly because we have been through this before. So, no. So is there a mover and a seconder for the receiving the public? Beg your pardon? I'll move it, and I think the Deputy Mayor will second that. That is to receive the report and the feedback and consider this as part of the decisions in the accompanying confidential report and advocate strongly then government about the need to establish national schemes and that the consideration of the Council's role in the recovery of Category 2B are currently under development will be reported as soon as possible. So I think I'm going to take a risk of actually putting that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. The contrary?
Aye.
Did I hear a contrary, or was that just a late aye? A late aye. I think it's an aye from Samoa. It's just slightly late. Okay. There are no.
Was it me?
Okay. Thank you, Josephine. And no consideration of extraordinary items. I think I want to now move that we move into a confidential set to deal with the actual rules, the detailed rules, and the consideration and whether or not we sign the agreement, which I have actually read through, believe it or not. So I can have a seconder and a mover to go into. Thank you, Councillor Walker, and seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour, please say aye.